Uranium is at the intersection of the green energy megatrend, energy security, energy independence.
This week's special is 1 ounce silver Britannias for only $4.50 over spot here at Liberty and Finance. We are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin Precious Metal Investments. Call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. Taking orders in the wee hours of the night and on weekends, because preparedness doesn't stop.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have this returning guest. Scott Melbye is the CEO of Uranium Royalty Corp. He joins us again this Thursday, July 7th, 2022. Scott, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you, Dunnigan. It's always great to visit with you, and we're excited about the Rick Rule conference coming up later this month.
We definitely want to talk about the Rule Symposium, and it's only just 3 weeks from now. It's going to be going on in Boca Raton, Florida. We're going to get to that. First, we wanted to check in with you because Rick, whom we have on our channel at least once a month, has been continuing to beat the drum for about a year now on the prospects of uranium as a strategic mineral that people need to be aware of, a strategic metal that countries can't do without right now in the short term. We certainly have some examples of countries that were trying to, whether it was Germany or others, had really throttled back on their plans, and you can't fault people for trying to come up with diversification strategies, that kind of thing, or domestically sourced, less dependency on foreign sourced strategic materials, that kind of thing. Energy is so critical to modern society. However, he has a quote that keeps echoing in my ears, as many of the things that Rick tends to say do, and that is either the uranium price goes up or the lights go out. And I can't stop thinking about that. And so what we'd like to do is get your take on the current state of the direction in the uranium industry and the market, and where you see the big trends, the big story right now and the next, say, year or two. And then we'll zoom in on just some specifics about the conference.
Yeah, well, excellent. It is very timely. We may be getting closer to that scenario that Rick has been talking about. He's always encouraged resource investors and those in the uranium industry to be patient. Don't worry about being in the story too early. I think the patience of uranium investors is going to pay off here much sooner rather than later, and that's really based on very sound fundamentals of supply and demand, but also the intersection of a number of mega trends and geopolitical developments, which we're all following on the front page of the newspapers these days. But you're absolutely right that we've always known that nuclear plays an important part in energy policies of countries, whether it is valuing the carbon-free aspect of nuclear power or the reliability, baseload, and affordability of nuclear power. We've always felt it's had a place. What's been happening lately is that's being more broadly recognized across the spectrum, whether it's the political left or right, Republicans, Democrats, industrialists, environmentalists. They're all coming to the conclusion, some of them more reluctantly than others, but frankly, a ideological driven green energy policy that ignores the math and science. We're seeing those fail spectacularly. In terms of, Germany is a great example where they wanted to decarbonize their energy sector, but moved away from nuclear at the same time. And it's only achieved essentially zero carbon reductions. They're restarting very dirty lignite coal-fired power plants in Germany these days to keep the lights on. But it's also resulted in expensive electricity and beginning to see reliability issues. And of course, the reliance on Russian gas has put them in a very awkward position to not be able to speak out as loudly as they should be as a leader in Europe against Russia's appalling actions in Ukraine. So uranium is at the intersection of the green energy megatrend, energy security, energy independence, and it's exciting times. And just looking at the fundamentals of supply and demand, even without Ukraine, Russia, we were getting to a point where the market had been rebalancing from a supply and demand perspective. We've been producing far below 60, even 70 million pounds below consumption each year for many years. That's drawn down inventories. The emergence of Sprott Physical Uranium Trust has accelerated the drawdown of excess inventories. And so we're just at a point now where uranium supply and demand is shifting from inventory-driven to production-driven. And then, of course, the geopolitical events of Russia hit, which could eliminate supplies for significant amounts of uranium conversion enrichment from Russia, either immediately or certainly within the next couple of years as we move away from that Russian reliance. So very timely to talk about uranium and nuclear energy, and we're excited for my two companies, Uranium Royalty Corp and Uranium Energy Corp, are very well positioned to give investors exposure to this exciting area.
In addition to all of this background, we've got the Rule Symposium on Natural Resource Investing that's coming up in 3 weeks, July 26, 27, 28, 29 in Boca Raton, Florida. And you are one of the slated exhibitors and speakers there. And without giving away the details of what you plan on saying at the conference, but just to give people an anticipation of what basic major themes you think will come out about uranium in general and Uranium Royalty Corp in specific at the conference.
Sure. We'll really intend to unpack those topics in more detail, whether it's the demand side and talking about the exciting developments with advanced reactors and small modular reactors that we're seeing all over the world, really, as this next wave of advanced reactors, the big reactor build that continues around the world. So the demand side, we can unpack that more fully. We can talk about the uranium picture, where we are going to need additional uranium mines coming online in the second half of this decade, perhaps 8 to 10 of varying sizes in various jurisdictions around the world. But obviously UEC feels that with our two production platforms in Texas and Wyoming, we're in that number. But Uranium Royalty is also globally investing in a number of companies and developments that we believe will be part of that new production mix that's needed to meet demand going forward. Certainly can talk about the geopolitical events in Russia and Ukraine, and whether it's bans on uranium imports in the U.S. Congress or administration, or whether Putin preempts that and cuts us off with an embargo before then. Really hope to give attendees at the Rule Symposium some really meaty fundamentals to chew on in the uranium space. And again, I've been in this uranium industry close to 40 years. I don't know if I've ever been this optimistic about the totality of the fundamentals that are driving uranium right now.
In addition to all of that, people have often on our channel heard Rick say that the royalty business model is special and different, and that potential investors need to be aware of what makes that different. We've talked with gold royalty companies, other royalty companies, but Uranium Royalty Company has that business model. Can you remind potential investors why that's something they need to be paying attention to at this time?
Sure. Well, we saw the enormous success that the royalty companies were seeing over the last 10, 15 years in base and precious metals, really becoming a go-to source of project finance, development finance for new projects and existing mines expansions. We also saw how appealing it was to investors to have investments, pure play investments in a commodity or commodities with diversified exposure. Excuse me. And Uranium Royalty Corp just patterned ourselves, whether it's Franco-Nevada, Wheaton Precious, Sandstorm. We basically become the first mover in the uranium space in an industry that does need a significant amount of investment, perhaps billions of dollars invested in the coming years to really revitalize the global uranium industry. And we intend to be a big part of that. We're already off to a good start. We're only less than 3 years in existence as a publicly traded company. Listing on the NASDAQ last year really increased our trading volumes and exposure in the U.S. market. But we really are excited about the portfolio with companies like Langer Heinrich, Paladin's Mine in Namibia, Orano and Cameco, Cigar Lake, McArthur River in Saskatchewan, or investments that we've made in the U.S. Industry as well. But it is very much global, and I think now we were visiting earlier before we came on about traveling again. I intend to be on the road in Africa and Australia and other places around the world to really see where we can make investments on behalf of our royalty investors to really give them a diversified exposure to the uranium story at an exciting point in the commodity cycle.
I did ask the following question, the group of 3 questions actually, when we had you on previously. I'm going to ask them again because a lot of our audience wants to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and covering the bases from ethical, environmental, etc. concerns. So there's a sort of a triumvirate of concerns that are always raised when we talk about uranium. I'm sure they won't be new to you. One is about safety for the mining operations and miners. Second is safety of reactor operations, with the potential for major upsets or escapes, that sort of thing. And the third is the safety of long-term storage of spent fuel. All of those are things that tend to give potential investors pause about participating in uranium at all. Can you please give us your response to those people who have concerns, which I respect very much so in those areas?
We respect those concerns as well, and have a very high commitment to health, safety, and environment. And starting with the nuclear waste, I think we have to kind of step back and realize that we've been the most responsible industry in the world in terms of containing every gram of waste we've ever produced. In the United States, if we took all the spent nuclear fuel from the 1950s to the present, it would fit on the size of a football field. So this isn't a huge, overwhelming scientific challenge, whether you move to reprocessing or, as we're doing in the U.S., to permanently store spent nuclear fuel in stable geologic formations. It's not a scientific challenge. It's political in terms of the siting of those facilities. In terms of reactor safety, I know this also surprises folks, but the nuclear energy with all the billions of kilowatts, trillions of kilowatts generated since 1950s, we're by far the safest form of energy in the world today, and that's based on accidents over the last 50 years. Injuries or deaths are comparable to that of wind and solar. I know you have very high-profile events, particularly the only one that resulted in deaths or injuries was Chernobyl, but still on a statistical basis, it's still the safest form of energy, and new generations of new reactor types just become that much more safer with redundant safety systems in the new reactors as well. And then in the mining, the move towards ESG and ethical and mining practices, that's not something new for uranium because we have always been on the controversial side of mining. We've always had to do a really good job at paying attention to water quality, air quality, Aboriginal land issues, being good stewards of the communities in which we operate, providing safe working environments. And so, the companies that I'm involved in are fully embracing ESG because I think we have a really good record. We have a good story to tell. And so for whether it's Uranium Energy Corp, who is are well along the way to issuing their first full ESG report and have conducted all the baseline studies and are working to issue that report, or it's Uranium Royalty Corp that overlays a filter of all of our investments. We go through that health, safety, and environment filters on any investments that we make. Fortunately, in the uranium business, we don't have many like blood diamonds or blood gold, which you might have in other commodities. There aren't many of those, and certainly none that we would invest in. So, strong commitment, and we know how important that is to investors these days.
Well, Scott, we've got more questions than we'll be able to field in this short interview. We look forward to the opportunity to have you back on to tell us about both of the companies, Uranium Royalty and Uranium Energy. And we especially look forward to meeting you in person for the first time at the Rural Symposium in Boca Raton. I will be there and be happy to meet you there. Folks, if you want to meet Scott there and put him on the spot and grill him with all your valid questions, that would be a great opportunity to do so, to really do your diligence and make sure that you're clear on the prospects of the company and the way that they do business and the industry as a whole. Scott, any final thoughts for our viewers before we wrap?
Yeah, Dunnigan, absolutely. I am available for the entire, full, I guess it's 4 days of the conference. So if you want one-on-one discussions of the uranium industry, the macro, the price forecasts of uranium and supply and demand developments, or particular industry specific questions, I am available throughout the entire conference. So we look forward to meeting with existing investors and new ones as well.
And we'll put contact information in the description of this video for Uranium Royalty Corp, so people can reach out and find out more ahead of the conference. And thank you very much for joining us here again on Liberty and Finance.
Great, thank you, Daniel.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we will let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be double boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Elijah, my brother Kaiser, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.